Welcome to the chalkboard, my fellow football nerds, for episode number 236 of Chalk Talk. I'm your host, Shane Haff. You can follow me on Twitter at ShaneHaffNFL. And I'm joined by the best co-host in the game. You've heard him on the Saturday morning spread, allegedly. It is Mark Henry Jr. Give him a follow on Twitter at MarkHenry Jr. _. Mark, how you doing today?
I am doing well. I've really, over the last week or so, really been diving in on fantasy stuff and even some college football stuff. So I am, I know the rest of the world thinking about the Stanley Cup or the NBA Finals or even the World Cup starting this week. There's a whole lot of going on in the sports world. I'm focused on the Phillies and football. Even though it's June, I'm not really thinking too much about the NBA Finals or the Stanley Cup or the World Cup, but locked in trying to get ready for football season. And I always say August is one of my favorite months because it really becomes everybody's talking win totals for the NFL or fantasy drafts, or even though the NFL hasn't started in August, it feels like the NFL still somehow owns August. So I love when we get there. We still have a while to go before we get there. The point is for me to be prepared before we get there. So that's what I'm working on lately.
Yeah, if I could just skip to opening week, I would be so happy to skip all of the stuff in between, with the exception of this show, which is actually one of my favorite shows of the year. But I am always so ready for football to get back. And this is the part of the year where I'm not really into any of the other sports, and there's just a big hole in the summer. And so I'm ready to get to some football. Today, though, we're doing one of my favorite exercises of the offseason, and that is drafting our expansion team. We are drafting the 33rd team in the NFL. And if you have missed parts of this series, some of it might not make sense to you, although we will talk about our protections along the way. But just to recap, for those of you that are maybe just tuning back in, maybe you missed the first couple of episodes, this is the third part of a 3-part series where we draft an NFL expansion team. And in parts 1 and 2, we went through every AFC team and every NFC team, and we established 11 protected players that we cannot draft into this expansion team. And so today we will go through and select one player from each of those teams to fill in a 32-man roster. And so it's always kind of fun. This show always stresses me out a little bit because there's no really good way to organize it. It's like if we start down the road and then we change one person, there's just this cascading effect. But I never can wrap my mind around how to organize it up front, and we just never seem to have a problem. So hopefully I didn't jinx this. Hopefully this isn't the year we can't fill out a team, but we are going to dive in and get started here, Mark. And so if you are listening on podcasting platforms, you're missing the graphic that's on the screen, which is probably fine. But we just have a 32-man roster, which basically amounts to 2 quarterbacks, 2 running backs, 4 receivers, 2 tight ends, 6 offensive linemen, and then 2 edges, 2 D tackles, 3 linebackers, 3 corners, 2 safeties, and then just a flex overall DB, flex defensive lineman, and then a kicker and a punter. And so we're going to try to fill that out. It's kind of a major disrespect to your team, I think, if we take your kicker or your punter, but I think we've taken 49ers like a couple of years in a row. Anyways, we're going to dive into it here, Mark. I think the best way to probably do this is just to start throwing out some players that we definitely want on our team and sort of go from there. And so do you have, I feel like I've got a pretty good candidate for who we want our quarterback to be.
Yeah, that was where I was going to go to first.
Yeah, honestly, I think I know who we want both of our quarterbacks to be honest, but I'll throw out the 2 names I've got and you tell me if you've got anything different. But I think we take Mac Jones. He had a good run last year as a starter. There was actually some arguments that maybe he should have remained the starter at certain points in time. And then I think you take Davis Mills from Houston, and you've got 2 pretty solid options at quarterback for our team. What are your thoughts there?
Absolutely. Yeah, those are the 2 names that I had as well. Both guys stepped in and played really well last year. Mills, some of the metrics would tell you he wasn't quite as good as the kind of the eye test, and the fact that the Texans didn't lose and beat a couple really good teams when he played. But I I think there's a chance that Houston beats the Patriots in the playoffs last year if they would have had the courage in the second or third quarter to bench CJ Stroud with the disaster game he was having. If Mills could have potentially just righted the ship there. So I'm pretty high on both those guys. These are both guys that you look at some of the bottom kind of teams in the league in terms of the quarterback situations, your Atlanta Falcons, your Arizona Cardinals, a couple of these other teams out there that really had crappy QB situations. I think would have done much better to just trade for one of these guys, and maybe it wouldn't have been worth trading a second rounder if you're a crappy team that isn't going to go anywhere anyway. But like I would even say a team like the Carolina Panthers, I would almost feel better about the Panthers with either of these guys than Bryce Young going into this year. But yeah, I think this is one of our best QB rooms we've ever had.
Yeah. And I think you can make an argument if you like Davis Mills to throw Mac Jones back and take George Kittle, but you've got Kittle coming off the injury, and I think we've got some other good tight end options. So we can keep that
Yeah.
in the back of our mind, but let's stick with that as our QB room for right now. What's one that you feel pretty strongly about, Mark?
I'm going to go to the other side of the ball, and I'm going to go the guy who I think we've had before. But he was a guy, the minute we didn't protect him for the New York Giants, we said, well, that guy's going to be on our team, and it's Kayvon Thibodeau. I know it has not been exactly what we expected in the NFL for Kayvon Thibodeau in terms of, he was this top five pick and a guy who I know both of us were really high on and really thought was a true blue chip guy. I would say he's been in one of the worst potential situations he could be in for that to work out. Not only has it been a terrible team and a bad defense around him, but they just keep adding edge rushers and adding nothing else to help the edge rushers on that defense. So Kayvon's a guy who I've said many times I would love to be the team that takes the second chance on Kayvon, whenever it's the team trading for him this year, or if it's someone who just gets to kind of give him a maybe that kind of Chase Young deal, where a prove it deal in free agency next year. Kayvon would kind of fit that Chase Young mold for me as a guy who I would want to bet on.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, you're talking about a guy that we really liked coming out in the draft, who's played for a bad organization that's only 25 years old. And so it hasn't been as good as you would have wanted it to be, especially where they picked him. Obviously the sack totals haven't been there, only 2.5 sacks last year, but he's a guy that he's defensive rookie of the year. I still think there's a good player in there. And when you are allowed to protect 11 players from a not very good football team, you do kind of get to sparse pickings sometimes. So I'm on board with that. A couple of
We,
years ago, I would have made a strong argument for Greg Newsome, but he's really fallen off the last couple of years. So I am good with
yeah,
Kayvon there on the edge.
I didn't have a ton of options from the Giants, and that's kind of one of the reasons I wanted to get Kayvon out of the way early. Um, and we probably protected worse players than Kayvon for the Giants, but because we were protecting Burns and Abdul Carter and who am I blanking on? The rookie from this year, Arvell Reese.
Yeah.
Because you're protecting all those guys on the edge, we felt like we had to throw Thibodeau back in the draft. So Thibodeau, in my opinion, will be one of our better players.
Somebody needs to let the Giants know, by the way, that you can spend first round picks on other positions, but
It's
that's a
unbelievable.
that's a thing to make fun of on another day. So let's stay in the division here.
Okay.
And let's talk about a team that I've heard a lot of buzz about this player out of their training camps. Let's go to Dallas. And how do you feel about DeMarvin Overshone? He's a player that I liked in the draft, a player that has played well, obviously got injured, but kind of word around the Twitter sphere has been that Overshone has really shown out in training camp so far. There's some arguments for some offensive linemen that the Cowboys have, Cooper Beebe, Tyler Guyton, but DeMarvin Overshone, I think, is going to have a really good year, young player, and I do think we can pick up some offensive line elsewhere. So how do you feel about the case for Overshone?
Yeah, I agree with everything you said. I know we had some, I don't know if it was a Cowboys fan or just an NFL fan in the chat when we were going through the NFC protections, and after we were done said that we should have protected Overshone. So to that guy, here we go. He's on our team. We did it to help ourselves. No, but I I do think Overshone, the upside is there and it's the right pick for us. He is a guy who's only played 19 NFL games. So we are talking about a guy who I don't think it was ridiculous for us to have not kept him, but I do understand the upside there. And Dallas, I mean, I've been kind of arguing a lot about Dallas in the one big NFL chat that I'm in, and my big thing is I still don't know if they did enough on defense. If Overshown's a stud, that is a big step, obviously, and a big difference from last year's defense to this defense. So I've said that you need Quinnen Williams to be a Defensive Player of the Year candidate, and Caleb Downs to be a Defensive Rookie of the Year candidate for the Cowboys to have a good defense. Maybe throw Overshown being like a legitimately good linebacker in that as well, because that would make a big difference.
Comeback player of the year.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, they need 3 awards on the defense. Or 3 award contentions.
Yeah. All right. What's another one that you feel really good about?
I'm gonna go with a guy who I think is gonna be one of the better players on our team, and it's to a team that you probably have a couple options from in the Detroit Lions. And now you could go Aleem McNeil at D tackle. You could go Derek Moore if you wanted to go with a rookie edge to give yourself some kind of upside on the D line and young talent. I'm gonna go with I think the best player we didn't protect, and that's Sam Laporta. Good receiver, good blocker. I can slot right in there and be one of the better players on our offense. And I mean, he's a guy who's I mean, just in terms of fantasy, he's like the number 6 or 7 tight end coming off the board in fantasy, and he's a good blocker. So I think you get that's again, this is one of our better players here.
Yeah, that's one of the players that I had in mind when I was mentioning the whole George Kittle conundrum with Mac Jones. I was kind of had circled in my head Sam Laporta being our tight end, so I'm certainly on board with that. Let's see, as we kind of peruse through here. The Eagles are an interesting conversation. There's so many Eagles you can take. I almost want to save them for a little bit.
Yeah, I think we should save him
Yeah,
and see how we start filling out a little.
let's go to the Bears. I think you're taking an offensive lineman from the Bears. You've got Joe Tooney, which is probably the guy I lean towards. But if you wanted to go, you could go Ozzie Trapillo. You could go Jonah Jackson. Do you see a non-O-line option that you like for the Bears?
No, it's all line, and I went Tooney when I did it initially. If you wanted to save them and see if we needed to tackle more, I think we'll be fine at tackle though. So I actually think Tooney is the best option pretty easily.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and put him down. Let's see. Where do you go on my list? Because I can never spell his last name right. There it is.
Yeah, there you go.
This is one of the great things about doing this show is people get to see how bad I am at spelling people's names too. So that's
And
always
I'm a
fun.
spelling stickler. So I'll keep Shane on his P's and Q's over here.
Yeah. All right. So that checks off the Bears. Where do we want to go next? Let me ask you this. What are your thoughts on the Packers? So Josh Jacobs is there, a guy we did not protect because of some legal reasons. He appears to still be with the team. I don't know if I want him on our expansion team, though.
Nah.
Would be a good player. You've got Javon Hargrave if you wanted to go on the interior.
This was a hard one.
You could go with the rookie and Brandon Cisse.
Yeah, this is one I want to save a little bit because this is crazy. The way that the positions broke out when I did it initially, I had their kicker,
Okay,
which is crazy.
I don't even know who the
But
kicker is.
it's a rookie. It's Trace Mack. It wasn't even just about it being the kicker. I just kind of ran out of spots for Hargrave or Cease, really.
Okay.
But let's keep them out. I will say another. I'll just throw this guy out there because apparently I got yelled at in the chat for not protecting him. On the Vikings, Jalen Redmond, guy who they've really developed. He was an undrafted guy a couple years ago and has turned himself into a really solid deep tackle. And I don't really have any other options from the Vikings, so that was an easy one for me.
Jalen Redmond, 6 sacks
Yeah,
last year. Let's see. I'm trying to think it. Or I mean, they still have Aaron Jones too, right?
yeah. I
If you
think
wanted to go that direction.
I think he's super cooked, Aaron
Yeah.
Jones. Yeah, I'm super out on Aaron Jones. I have a pretty good path, I think, for our running back situation.
Jalen Redmond was from OU. I don't remember him, but I'm in.
Yeah, there we go. That's all it takes.
Okay, so we'll plug him in on the defensive line. I don't know why I don't remember him. That kind of annoys me anytime we get an OU guy that I don't remember. Let's go to Vegas. Las Vegas. Obviously, we had Kirk Cousins as a potential option that we did not take since we took Mac Jones, Davis Mills. I feel like Jackson Powers Johnson is the guy here, right? I mean, you could look to defense. You could go with like a Quay Walker. Jackson Powers Johnson's probably the move in Vegas, right?
Uh, hmm. Let's save that one. Let's
Okay.
save Vegas just a little bit. I'm gonna throw one out there. I actually felt a little worse about the running back situation than I normally do.
Uh huh.
And one that I'll throw out there, he's a rookie. I he went in the end of the first round, but I don't know where else I'll go. It's Seattle, really. So I think Chidarian Price is one of the better options, and I think he's one of the best kind of upsides you'll get out of running back. I have a couple kind of nice, like, complementary options, but I don't really have a lot of guys I'd feel good being the guy. And I don't know if you feel good about Jadarian Price being the guy, but obviously Seattle does. So he's going to be the guy in an NFL offense this year. And I don't know how many guys you can say that about that we didn't protect. We protected more running backs than usual. I don't know what that says about us or the position or where we're at in the league. I don't know, but I felt we protected more than usual.
Yeah, my only hesitation there is Rashid Shaheed. But I think you're right in that there are more receivers that we can choose from. And although I didn't have this guy as a first round pick, he did ultimately become a first round pick. And anytime on an expansion draft you could steal a first round pick, unless it's the 49ers first round pick, that's probably a good move to take. So I'll go with you on that one. Let's go ahead and get your boy Jadarian Price. I'll spell his name right, maybe.
And but by the way, you know what? I'm fine putting Jackson Powers Johnson down. Let's put him at the extra O line spot for now.
Okay.
I don't know.
Fit.
Joey Porter Jr. is protected anyway.
They need those two guys need to be on the same team at some point in time. So, okay. So we'll stick Jackson Powers Johnson tentatively as our extra O lineman because he's got a lot of versatility. Jadarian Price at running back. Where do we want to go next?
I'm looking at corner, which is usually a tougher spot for us.
There's
And
a few
I'm
corners
taking,
I really like in this and that are potential options.
yeah, I think we actually are in a little bit of a better spot than usual. I was looking at Denver, and I think Riley Moss makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
He was kind of right on that cut line for us when we went through it initially. White corner, obviously, my dog agrees. But yeah, Riley Moss is where I would look at.
Okay. Yeah. Riley Moss was a guy that I had down as a potential option. You do lose out on the potential of taking like Mike McGlinchey on the offensive line. But again, secondary is important. And typically there is more options for us to make a serviceable O line than a serviceable secondary. So I'm down with Riley Moss. Staying in that same division, I also want to submit Noel Williams as an option for out of the Chiefs. I mean, if you don't take Noel Williams, you're looking at like a washed up Travis Kelce, an Xavier Worthy who has not really lived up to the billing, or like Kingsley Suamatia. And so I'm not excited about those options, but I do think Noel Williams. I mean, I guess you could go linebacker. They've got Nick Bolton, Drew Tranquil, but how do you feel about Noel Williams adding him to this secondary as well? You're on mute.
That's who I had. He was a helmet sticker guy for me last year. I played pretty well and played well enough that the Chiefs let both of their corners go to the Los Angeles Rams. So they obviously trust him there. So give me Noel Williams from Kansas City. Yeah, I think that's a good pickup.
We could make a pretty great cornerback trio if we just grab Tariq Woolen from the Eagles and put him on there too. I don't know that I'm prepared to do that because we still have like Jordan Davis, Moro Ojimo as options. You know, you could look at the offensive line for some of the interior guys. There's a lot of places you could go. But I don't know if I'm fully ready to pull the trigger, but Reek Woolen would make this an excellent corner trio.
I'm ready to pull the trigger. That's
right.
what I had down. And here's what I'll say. So if you look through it, this is I'll just say this name real fast, but Dion Walker I think is going to be a D tackle for us. You look around at Buffalo, I don't see a lot of great options. You know, I'm a diehard Dion Walker guy. And then that takes Davis and Ojomo off the board a little bit. If you have
Yeah,
Redmond
that's
and
fair.
Walker, we have our D tackles. Then we're talking about Goddard. You have Laporta already on the board. Do we really need to waste the kind of a high valued team like the Eagles on another tight end? Then you have Jahad Campbell. Are we sure we want to get Jahad Campbell in there when we can get kind of a guy like Reek, who we have a more of a certainty of kind of fitting in and being a good player right away? He was just on a Super Bowl defense and played a lot of snaps. And then there's Jalen Hunt. I think it came down to me for Woolen or Hunt. Uh, and I think Woolen, everybody, I think I'm getting a Greek Woolen jersey. I'm all in. I've been a Woolen guy for years. I've been a defender the last couple of years, but I feel like some of the worm has turned on him in terms of some of the way he's discussed publicly. And I feel like he's one of the first. I don't know why he became this guy, but I always feel like there's a couple corners who are pretty good to good, and they're just every time they ever get burned or make a mistake, all of Twitter decides to like kill them. And Woolen became that guy, and I don't know why. Honestly, I kind of was part of it. I think pre-Eagles Slay was that guy a little bit, where people kind of crapped on Slay even though he was really good sometimes. But I think Woolen, there's a lot of underlying numbers and some of the metrics out there that Woolen is way better than anybody's given him credit for, really, on its coverage skills. I think Fangio is gonna use that to the nth degree, and I don't think I don't think Rick Woolen's going to be an Eagle next year, because I think he's going to play so well that he's going to get a contract somewhere else.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's a bold move to get a jersey of a
Yeah,
guy that's gonna
it's
be a 1 year player.
that's what's stopping me. That's what's stopping me. I like having the bit jerseys. I like having the random jerseys and being like, oh yeah, I have a Ryan Kirkering Phillies jersey. But yeah, I Reek Woolen, it might be a bridge too far, because he's absolutely getting like 4 years, 60 million next year from whoever.
Yeah. All right. Let's go to Cleveland, which no one has ever said except Denzel Ward, apparently. But Denzel Ward is protected here, so he can continue his pursuit to be a lifetime Brown. I think there's two options here. I think you can go offensive line and take Tevin Jenkins, and I think Tevin Jenkins is a good player. But Cleveland has a safety duo, really a trio, but we protected Emmanuel McNeil Warren. So Ronnie Hickman, Grant Delpit. Ronnie Hickman's younger. I think he's played a little better over the last 2 years. So continuing our defensive backfield theme here, I say we get Ronnie Hickman and plug him into this defensive backfield.
It sounds good for me. Yeah, that's I literally wrote Delpit slash Hickman down. I didn't really even have a preference, so I'm totally fine with Hickman there. Let's go to the L.A. Rams.
This is a tough
Let's
one.
go Warren. Let's go Warren McClendon at tackle. You could. I think that the two big ones are McClendon or Avila.
Uh-huh.
Uh, and I feel like you look around at tackle and you have kind of the we took away the Cowboys options. We took away the Bears option with Tooney. We took away McGlinchey as an option. So you have Moss in there. I kind of don't want Broderick Jones, because I think that there's better ways to use the Steelers spot. Uh, so that leaves me with two offensive tackles that I kind of wrote down as options, and that's Warren McClendon for the Rams, and then that's Rasheed Walker for Carolina.
Yeah. McClendon becomes a full-time starter really for the first time last year and really answered the bell. Played well in LA. And I mean, you can credit some things to Stafford, of course, and McVay, but I think McClendon's a good option there. It hurts my heart not to have Cam Curl on this team, but
I know.
that's a bit for years now. So let's do it. We'll go Warren McClendon, MCC, and we'll plug him in as one of our offensive tackles. And let's see, he plays the right side. Not that that matters, but I'm going to put him down here for my OCD. Okay.
And then
And
Rasheed Walker for Carolina, I think really has to be the other guy, considering who else we've already taken from some of these teams.
yeah, let's see, Rasheed Walker. Yeah, I was trying to think. Who else did we have available on Carolina? I think you're right.
Yeah, it's
Um,
Lee Hunter is really the other good option. It'd be a
yeah,
D tackle they took in the second round, and we already have 2 of them already, so a lot of it just becomes where do we have less options, and I feel like tackle became that just based on the guys we kinda picked.
yeah, yeah. I really like Jonathan Brooks too, but he just might never
Yeah.
turn out to
Well, he
stay
made
healthy.
he
And
I guess they asked him some sorta he got clocked going some crazy fast speed in, training camp, and they asked him about it, and they said, "How fast are you?" or "How fast can you run now that you're healthy on the 40?" or whatever and that, and he said, "Faster than Chuba." And
oh my,
that was all he said, and I was like, "Alright, well." Yeah, he's not hiding what he wants, I guess, there. But yeah, Rasheed Walker, we talked about it in the Carolina protections. One of the more puzzling contracts I've ever seen in my time covering the NFL or watching the NFL or however you want to say it. He was a guy who people thought could get $100 million and then comes out and signs a 1 year, $4 million deal with the Carolina Panthers. I think it can be up to 10, but it's one of there's definitely some injury stuff going on there, and he might not even start for Carolina. So it's a really weird situation. Carolina team was pretty loaded on the O line. They have like 7 or 8 like starting level offensive linemen. I now Kwanu's hurt, so we'll see what happens there. But they are just really kind of deep on that O line. So on the other hand, McClendon, the Rams would miss McClendon a lot, especially with the news of Alaric Jackson, their other tackle, getting arrested for domestic violence and eating his girlfriend's phone. I don't know if you saw that, Shane, but Alaric Jackson, when he was arrested, allegedly ate his girlfriend's phone. And then it was corrected. He didn't eat it. I guess he was just chomping on it. He didn't digest it.
uh-huh.
But there you
Yeah,
go.
I did hear about that. Yeah. I don't even know if
No
I have. I
comment.
don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't even know if I've got a comment on that. One of the crazier stories that I've ever heard. But fortunately for our expansion team, we had the Rams protect that guy instead of Warren McClendon. So there we go. How
There you
about we
go.
get a receiver on the board here? We don't have a receiver.
Yeah.
I think it's the only position we haven't taken some other than special teams that we haven't taken somebody yet. How do you feel about Romeo Dobbs?
Yeah.
The only other consideration I really have for them is Harold Landry, if we wanted to take an edge rusher there, or if we wanted to take one of the Ramondre Stevenson, Travion Henderson to be our second running back. However, with Jadarian Price probably going to be our bell cow type guy, Dobbs kind of feels like he does the most for our team. What are your thoughts on Dobbs, or is there a different guy you're eyeing for the Patriots?
No, the only other guy I had written down was the running backs. So I would go Dobbs, and I think he's got some more upside than some of the other usual wide receiver names we'll see when we go through this. Running back. So I did realize something while we were going through this, and I haven't figured out what team I left out. When I initially went through this and did my initial run through, I put 2 Steelers on my team.
Oh,
I
nice.
don't know, and I don't know which I don't know who I left off, what team. But let's go to the Steelers because I only had a couple names written down at running back, and I'm looking around, and I think you can find another safety somewhere. I think with the Steelers, it really came down to Broderick Jones, Jaquan Brisker, and then pick a running back. I'm more of a Dowdle guy than a Jalen Warren guy, but for me, the Steelers comes down to Rico Dowdle or Jaquan Brisker, since we already used our tackle spots. Where would you wanna go there?
Man, I just realized we didn't protect Aaron Rodgers, and he would be a potential option too for quarterback.
I just realized that too, actually, but screw him.
We could go Aaron Rodgers and throw Mac Jones back for George Kittle. We could go George Kittle tight end, Aaron Rodgers.
I don't I
I
don't
would,
like the Rodgers. Yeah, let's leave Rodgers out of it. He's, I'm kinda out on I he was so bad at the end of last year. At least
yeah,
with
I,
Jones and Mills, there's, like, upside with them, like, that maybe they could have kinda I don't know, Darnold might not be the right guy to I guess Darnold's kind of a fine name to throw out there, kinda like the Darnold second chance reclamation project thing. With
yeah.
Rodgers, like, I don't know what the upside is at 42. The upside is he plays, like, 9 or 10 good games.
Cam Hayward too. Although As I say, he's 3 years removed from a double-digit sack season, but 2 years ago, he had 8 sacks. He's an older player. I just really like Cam Hayward. Patrick Queen would also be an option. I like the Broderick Jones pick, but like you said, our tackle spots are already filled. We've got Mason McCormick on the interior. Yeah, I'm probably good with going running back there.
Would you do you care about Dowdle or Warren?
I didn't even have Dowdle written down, and I did have Jalen Warren written down.
I'm
But
fine with that.
I know Rico Dowdle had that crazy run last year, and he's got back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons.
I think he's underrated. I think he's become underrated, and he didn't get paid much, I don't think, to go there. But this
Yeah,
obviously not a fantasy show. But I'm kind of I'm a little Rico. 2 years, 12 million. It's not nothing in terms of running backs, but I'm a little Rico Dowdle pilled this year with the Steelers. I think he's going to have a nice season for them, and I think he's going to be more of the bell cow than Warren is. Now,
4.6 yards per carry each of the last 2 years in 1,000-yard seasons on 2 different teams, Dallas and Carolina. Warren 4.5 yards per carry last year. Let's do it. Let's do Rico.
yeah, I like Dowdle. I think he's going to have a nice year for them, and I mean they if they would have had Kenny Gainwell, I would have said Kenny Gainwell could have been on the team, and I think Gainwell's going to have a really nice season in Tampa also.
Yeah, I was about
But
to ask where he went. I kind of forgot.
yeah, he went to Tampa, and it's interesting because Bucky. I don't know if we've talked about this on this show at all. Maybe I think we did when we talked about the protections. Todd Bowles is throwing out really wild statements when he talks about Bucky. He's like, "Yeah, maybe he'll come back sometimes in the fall." And there's just a lot of weird stuff out there about the Bucky shoulder injury to the point where I wonder if Kenny Gainwell ends up kind of playing a lot there in Tampa.
Yeah, that'd be a shame. Bucky Irving was such a fun player. Hopefully he's able to get his body right and get back on the field for them in the pretty
For
near
sure.
future. Okay, that is all our quarterbacks and receivers. Let's see. Where do you want to go next?
Uh, at
Let's go to this.
receiver,
Okay, go ahead.
uh, I only have 2 names down for the Colts, and I have CJ Allen down as a linebacker, but Josh Downs is a guy who feels like sometimes with this, I'm looking for who's a good player that maybe's been in a weird situation or a spot where they've had a lot of receivers or maybe not had a great quarterback. And maybe if we got them in the right situation, we're obviously we like you said, we don't get a lot of chances at first round picks, but maybe we get chances at these 25, 26-year-old guys who we think can take a step up. I think Josh Downs kind of fits that in terms of there's a lot of nerds out there who would tell you Josh Downs is one of the most talented receivers in football. And he just hasn't really ever had a quarterback to get him the ball consistently. Or he's been in, I mean, for years, I feel like the Colts had like 6 receivers. Now they've kind of shortened it down. AD Mitchell's not there anymore. A couple of the guys have left, but he's kind of become and Pittman's gone now. So he's kind of become their number 2 guy. I think there's a chance for a bit of a Downs breakout this year anyway on the Colts, but I think for us, he's the kind of guy who we don't get a lot of chances of at receiver that could still have some upside.
Yeah, the problem with Downs is that last year was the worst year of his career. And even in the hot start the Colts had where they were 6-1, he only averaged like 36 yards a game through that first 7 games when they were really hot before the QB injuries started to stack up. But I mean, at the end of the day, Daniel Jones was still his quarterback. And so almost back-to-back 800-yard seasons before that, I'm good with that. I do have questions about what he could ultimately be, but when you're putting together an expansion team, you got to take some swings. So,
Yeah, and they just have you think about the fact that he was 4th in targets out of pass catchers, taking out Taylor. He was 4th in targets because you had Pittman and Alec Pierce and Tyler Warren. They just had so many mouths to feed in some ways. So I do think that there's a chance you get him where you're kind of making him one of the main guys. I think he can step up. He only had 88 targets last year, so I just think he's underutilized.
yeah. Okay, let's go to the Saints. I've got an option on each side of the ball for you from the Saints. So we could go Eric McCoy and fill out center, or on the defensive side, I think you could take Pete Warner. and plug him in next to DeMarvin Overshone and have a pretty solid linebacker crew. What direction do you lean there?
I think we go Warner, and you feel good about linebacker. That also what that opens you up to do. Overshown, obviously the high upside injury guy, but we feel pretty good about him. And Pete Warner, kind of the rock solid vet to kind of plug in there. Now, if we want to, with that third linebacker spot, if we wanted to go with a rookie or someone unproven, maybe, or take another swing a little bit, that kind of opens us up to do that, I think. And I think that there's still some options on the interior in terms of O line.
All right. Okay. Let's go then. What about oh, I just realized Geno Smith was an option too for quarterback from
I
the
had so he
Jets.
was I actually only had 3 I only had 4 quarterback names written down, and it was Mac, Mills, Geno, and Kirk. I'm out on Kirk. I think
Yeah, same.
the feet I just don't think the feet can move anymore after the Achilles. Maybe it'll be 2 years removed, maybe it'll be different, but Mac, Geno, and Mills were the 3 options. I would have considered Geno, but I'm totally fine with Mac and Mills, and I think there might be a little bit more upside with both of them. There's a team that I'm just gonna leave out for a bit and just say this team, I think I struggled with more than any on the board, and all 3 things are available, so I'll just put it out there for when these things come up. The Chargers, I think, are a really hard team to decide. You can kinda go with Tyler Biadasz at center and lock
Mhm.
in a solid center. Go with Charlie Kohler if you just wanted to go full on blocking tight end with the second tight end and get one of the best blocking tight ends in football. That's a good option. You take the upside with Trey Harris, who was a rookie who didn't do much last year, but we liked him in the draft, and it's still year 2. Or you kinda go with the Quentin Johnston boring. He's been pretty good, even though we kinda all know he stinks. But Trey Harris, Biadasz, and Kohler are all really good options for this team. So you looked like you reacted to the Trey Harris one, though?
Yeah, I like Trey Harris. I know it was not a good season last year. It was a rookie season. I actually didn't realize till I went back and looked at his stats when you said his name that it was as bad as it was. But yeah,
Roman hated him. Greg
yeah,
Roman. He said, in a press conference, our buddy Chalk Talk alumni, Alex Insdorf, who covers the Chargers there, had a tweet go viral last year. Someone asked Greg Roman at a press conference why they're not using Trey Harris, and he gave this long answer about how the Ole Miss offense is just very elementary, and he wasn't ready to kind of integrate into an NFL offense. And he said, "Sorry that our offense isn't a Burger King offense. Can't have it your way." So I think Greg Roman very clearly hated Trey Harris. It
yeah,
seems like from day one.
yeah. Hopefully Mike McDaniel likes him and they can get things rolling again.
Mike McDaniel's like, when I have the munchies, I go to Burger King. So I'm in on the Burger King offense.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's a couple of good options for there. Do you want to go ahead and plug one in, or do you want to circle back to that?
You like the Trey Harris shout. So I had Trey Harris initially. That's who I went with. So I'm fine. I'm fine. Again, we don't get a lot of chances at upside there at wide receiver. Second round pick from last year, who I had a first round grade on, didn't really get used. I'm fine seeing if we can unlock something there.
All right. What about let's talk Tampa Bay because I think
This is a tough one
Godwin.
too.
I think Chris Godwin's a good option for a receiver if you want like the
He
savvy
is.
vet to balance out some of the upside swings that we took here. But I mean, you could also make an argument to take like Cody Mock on the
Yep.
interior or bounce over to the defense. But given how our receiver room has shaken out, I think I kind of like Chris Godwin to plug in there.
I agree. That's who I had, but you're right. There are multiple options there. Malk, good one. Tyke Smith, pretty good option at safety. Zion McCollum, who I think has really kind of struggled after a hot start in the league. I don't think McCollum has been quite as good lately. But yeah, Godwin was the way I went with, and you get some veteran presence in there.
We've
Another. Oh, sorry.
I was just say we got 10 teams left here. Let's rattle off a few of these. What do you have?
There's a team that I only have one name down for, and it's
Okay.
the Baltimore Ravens. They took an edge in the second round in Zion Young, who I had, I believe, like number 22 or 23 on my big board. Zion Young's a guy who I think has some upside to hope on at edge there.
All right. Let's plug him in. I'm good with that. Mark Andrews, Ronnie Stanley would be options on the offense, but I think if there's a rookie that you were that high on, you probably just take him. So That one makes sense to me. Let's
Tommy
go.
Tommy Townsend, punter for Tennessee.
That works. You're gonna have a hard time getting anything out of Tennessee.
There's nothing there.
Like the 17-0 game that's been going around.
Yeah, yeah,
If you roll the Titans in that, you just restart
yeah, exactly.
because
I haven't gotten a single good roll on any of those games, basketball or football. I've given up.
like if you roll, like the Panthers, their O line's pretty good. Like if you roll the
Yeah,
Jags, you can take Liam Cohen. If you roll the Titans, you just restart because you have no chance.
yeah, it's over.
So, okay, so Tommy Townsend. What about the NFC East? The only team we don't have filled is Washington, and I don't. That they're just tough. Like I had Luke McCaffrey down as a name, but we're full on receiver. I had
I have a
Trey
name.
Amos down, but he was
He's the
terrible
name I had
last
down.
year.
Did you see the clip go around this week with Trey Amos and Devontae Smith?
No,
AJ and Devontae, I don't know what they were at, but this offseason. AJ and Devontae were at some function talking to someone on the Commanders. I actually don't know who it was. And they were talking about how he was like saying how the Commanders can match up with us at every spot. And AJ was like, "Who's covering Devontae?" And the guy was like, he like thought for like 10 seconds and like couldn't come up with a name. And he was like, Trey Amos. And Devontae and AJ looked at each other like, really? Like, really? He's covering Devontae? It was really funny. And Trey Amos, like, I think he tweeted something like, man, what the hell? It was pretty funny. But a name that I had written down was Chigo Conquo. So the weird part about this, normally you'd think you have Laporta, the second tight end would be more of a blocking option. But we don't have the best receiving room of all time. Maybe we want to go some double tight end sets here and get a Conquo out wide and kind of use him in that way. So as much juice as we can get is probably the way we should go there.
yeah, let's do it because I really don't like any of the options for the Commanders. You could take Nick Cross is really the only other option
Charles
that I would have.
Amenahu, it's like
Yeah.
it's old.
Okay. Who in the heck are we going to take from the Miami Dolphins?
So I actually I did not have a kicker or a punter on this team. I went with a linebacker, and you could either go with you could go with the proven guy, which I think is what you'll do, and I'm fine with that, or you go with fourth round pick, who I liked in the draft, and his name's Kyle Lewis. But if you wanted to go with the proven guy, you could go with Willie Gay.
Willie Gay is a name that I had down. Don't love it. There's not much on this roster, that's for sure. I
You
don't
don't
care.
really,
Yeah.
yeah. I think we go linebacker there. I'm fine either way though.
Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, Willie Gay was okay last year. Let's go with your guy. Who was it?
Kyle Lewis.
I don't like Willie Gay enough to make him our third linebacker. If there's a rookie that you
And
like.
Lewis is Louis. And the thing about Lewis, so
All right, I'm out.
the thing I'll say about Lewis is that he was the best coverage linebacker in the draft this year. So he has some deficiencies in terms of like getting downhill, making tackles. Probably, I don't know if he's kind of in the box guy. I think he will have a role in the NFL due to his ability to cover. So at the very least, on our team, we can throw him out there to cover tight ends.
Yeah. Okay, I'm good with that. Let's talk about Arizona because I just saw when I was scrolling through the names I had written down. I do have Tyler Algier written down for Arizona as a potential name if we wanted to throw back Rico Dowdle and take one of those other guys we were talking about. Or we
Wait,
could
who's the running back name?
Tyler Algier.
I would go. So that's interesting.
Or we could take Isaac
I like
Samalo is the
Algier.
other name that I have written down for the Cardinals.
Are the Cardinals the team I forgot? I think I'm figuring out in real time the Cardinals are the team I forgot.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah, they are. I
I
think
mean,
your plan actually makes a lot of sense. I think Algier at running back, but then we go Brisker at safety for
yeah.
Pittsburgh.
Now, it
I think
is
that
worth
makes
saying
sense.
that Algier only 3.6 yards per carry last year is the worst year of his career in Atlanta.
That is worth mentioning.
but kind of your bruiser running back that you could come in. I don't know. It's an option, especially if we would like to get Brisker at safety.
Yeah, I was just looking around at safety and freaking out a little bit. So that does help. Yeah, I'm looking at the Cardinals roster here. I remember we really struggled to get to 5 on defense. I don't think you're getting a guy from the defensive side of the ball. Sam Alou is not a terrible option. I'm trying to kind of think in my head. It's more about what are we doing at safety if it's not Brisker? Because Blankenship's on the Texans. We already used that. Here's what I'll say. Would you rather go? I think I have it exactly like a three-part trade written out here. Would you rather have Tyler Algier, Jaquan Brisker, and Dylan Fairchild from Cincinnati on the interior line? Or would you rather have Rico Dowdle, Jordan Battle, and I lost it. Who was I had an interior lineman from one of these teams that I was plugging into that third spot. Man, I lost it. Wait, so who are the 3 teams? It's Pittsburgh. Oh, Sayamalu. Sayamalu.
Um,
So you could go Dowdle, Sayamalu, and Battle, or Algier, Brisker, and I guess it would be Fairchild.
let's see. Sayamalo is definitely the better player on the interior out of
Yeah,
those,
it's
but he's old too. He's 33, which I guess doesn't
we're
matter that
yeah,
much.
and we're pretty young in a lot of spots, at least.
Let's take Sayamalo.
Yeah, let's go Sayamalu, and I think that also kind of decides the safety thing for us, where Battle is a guy who came into the league and played so well for Cincinnati and has just not been quite as good at all recently. But we have seen him play well in the league. I guess he graded out mid last year, so he had 4 picks. So at least he was making some plays. Yeah, I
And
think Battle makes.
Jordan Battle had an awesome rookie season
Oh
and
yeah,
hasn't quite lived up to that since then. But that's just a couple of years ago. He's still just 25 years old. So
yeah.
there's a did he? I'm trying to remember. Did he play next to Jesse Bates that rookie season? I think he did. No,
I
that
don't know
was the
when
first
Bates
year
got
Bates
there.
was gone.
Hmm.
Anyway, as I say, there's something to be said for playing next to Jesse Bates, but I guess that doesn't really apply. So, okay, so we have the Jets, Falcons, Packers, and Jags left, and we need a center, a defensive back, a defensive lineman, and a kicker.
So I will say, this is not a guy I was all that familiar with before going through this exercise, but Ryan Newsel from the Atlanta Falcons graded out as one of the best centers last season, graded out as the number 7 center. I don't think he's really ever done that before, but he played 1100. Yeah, he played 1100 snaps and graded out really well. So I think that makes some sense.
Yep, let's plug him in there. So that gives us Jets, Packers, Jags left.
By the way, Packers or Jags being if either of those teams end up being the kicker team, that is disrespectful by us to 2 teams that are thinking they're going to compete this year, putting them in the kicker spot. That's pretty crazy stuff. I'll say for so the guys I have written down for the Jets are Harrison Phillips and David Onyemata. It just landed that I had 2 D tackles. The guys I have written down for the Packers are DD, Denied Dennis Sutton, Javon Hargrave, and Brandon Cease. It probably makes sense to go Cease. Not that he was even a guy I loved or anything, but at least he's some upside there at corner, young man's position. Yeah, that's probably where we should go. I think Brandon Cease from Green Bay.
Okay. Yeah, I Monteric Brown from the Jags would also be an option there. He had a really good season last year. Kind of his second year as more of a starting type player, but he's 20, about to be 27. If there's a rookie that we like, yeah, let's do that. So Brandon Cease be our defensive back. Who did you like from the Jets?
I had
It
the
was
D tackles down. I had Onyemata and Harrison Phillips. I'm looking if there's anything better on the Jags. Did we protect Eric Armstead? Probably
um
not, right?
let me look.
If not, I think he's probably the D lineman
Yeah, we did not
on pulling.
protect Eric Armstead.
Let's go Armstead then. I like that. I didn't have that down initially, but by the way, that is Arik in terms of Eric, because that's how everyone spells Eric, obviously.
It's it's A?
Yeah.
I feel like you're lying to me.
No, no, I promise. It's Arik.
All right, I'm out again. Second time I'm out because of how a name's spelled.
So wait, who's the Jets kicker? I actually don't even know this. Is it?
Either.
It's not Folk. He's long gone. I'm pulling it up. The kicker for the New York Jets is Cade York or Jason Sanders. Oof. Let's
I
go
don't.
Jason Sanders.
Yeah, I don't even know who is Jason Sanders. Never heard of him.
He's been the Dolphins kicker for a while. The York guy
I've heard
he
of
had a
York.
cup of coffees. Let's see who's gonna win the battle. I'm curious if there's any Cade York, Jason Sanders. Gangrene Nation says Sanders has a significantly better body of work than York, and he's only 30. So apparently they signed him 6 days ago.
Oh well, if you sign a kicker during training camp, your old kicker is out the door. So
Yeah,
let's do it. Jason
Jason
Sanders, it
Sanders.
is.
We
So,
did
all
it.
right, we did it, Mark. So let me run down the team here for those of you that are listening, not watching. We have quarterbacks Mac Jones and Davis Mills, running backs Jadarian Price, Rico Dowdle, a wide receiver core of Romeo Dobbs, Chris Godwin, Josh Downs, and Trey Harris, tight ends Sam Laporta and Chig Okonkwo. Our offensive line is Rasheed Walker, Joe Tooney, Ryan Newsel, Isaac Sayamalo, Warren McClendon, and Jackson Powers Johnson is our sixth O lineman. That's a solid O line. Defensive front, Kevon Thibodeau, Jalen Redmond, Deion Walker, Zion Young, and Eric Armstead. Our linebacker core is DeMarvin Overshone, Pete Werner, Kyle Lewis. Cornerbacks, Reek Woolen, Riley Moss, Noel Williams, and Brandon Cease. Our safeties are Ronnie Hickman and Jordan Battle. And then we disrespected the Jets and the Titans by choosing their specialists. Jason Sanders is our kicker, Tommy Townsend as our punter. And so there it is, folks. That is your expansion team for the 2026 NFL season. Mark, how did we do?
I can't decide. Part of me at first was like, this team's winning 6 games. And then you were going through it, and I was like, this team's getting a wild card. This team's sneaking in. We don't have any bad positions, I'd say. Like, I don't, maybe just like front seven in terms of like stopping the run, maybe. I think our D tackle group's probably more pass rush oriented, and maybe the linebacker crew a little bit more coverage oriented. I feel pretty good about the edges, better than I normally do. The receivers, I like that there's upside there with Downs and Harris, kind of. I think this is an 8-9, 9-8 team, similar to like the Vikings of last year. They find their way to like 9-8, and you're like, I don't know how they did it, but they did it. Great coaches.
Don't you disrespect our quarterback room by comparing them to the Vikings from last year?
That's fair. That's fair. We're gonna have, you know what? We're gonna make the wild card. We're winning 10 games. We're better than that team was. And I don't know how the head coach. I forget. I always forget how we do the coach coordinator. Do we have to pick from anyone who's not hired right now?
Uh, I don't know if we've really done coach coordinator in the past.
Can we hire a coordinator to be our head coach?
Sure.
Mike McDaniel.
Yep. I'm in.
There we go.
I was looking back at our last couple of years doing this, and was it 2 years ago? 2 years ago, we didn't protect enough people, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because our O-line from 2 years ago was Teron Armstead, Zach Martin, Frank Ragnow, Quentin Nelson, and Lane Johnson. So we got to throw that one out. But let's compare to a year ago. I'm trying to. So, this is the second year in a row we've chosen the Titans punter.
That's great. Is it the same guy?
It's not. It was Mitch Wishnowski last year.
So sorry, Mitch.
I'm trying to. This is the second year in a row Jordan Battle has been one of our safeties. Trying to look. Second year Pete Werner has been on our team.
That makes sense.
And I'm not seeing anybody else that's the same. So our last year's team. So in a head-to-head game, who wins between these two teams?
I'm
Me.
the skill position is the skill positions are not bad. When you're talking about a first round pick, rookie running back, Sam Laporta, the receivers, you kind of have a bunch of options and some upside. All right, let's look at this.
On the right, let's just do it. Let's rapid fire. Which group you like better? So quarterback. Last year we had Kirk Cousins, Shador Sanders. Obviously, this year Mac Jones, Davis Mills is better.
Yeah,
Last year at running back we had Cam Scatterbo, James Conner.
I'll say
Compared,
what
compared to Jadarian Price, Rico Dowdle, probably a wash. Wide receiver last year, DJ Moore,
better.
Emeka Egbuka, Xavier Legette, Jaden Higgins. I definitely prefer last year's receivers. At tight end, I think I prefer Sam Laporta and Chiga Okonkwo to Travis Kelce, Hunter Henry.
Yeah,
O-line last year, we had Brian O'Neill, Landon Dickerson, Joe Tippmann, Mekhi Becton, Rob Havenstein, and Sean Ryan. You
this is a
like this
better
year's?
group.
Yeah, I think this is
Yeah,
a better group too. Last year on our defensive line,
Byron
we
Murphy.
had Landon Jackson, Byron Murphy, Keanu Benton, JTT, and Malcolm Kuntz. I think I prefer last year's defensive line.
So I think like Jackson, Kuntz, and JTT just didn't really do much in the
Yeah.
NFL, but Murphy's so good. Murphy's better than any player we have, but I like the totality of our group more. So I'll say wash.
All right. Linebackers, they're both headlined by Pete Werner, but Bobby Wagner, Aluakon from the Jags versus
We kept him
Overshown
this year,
Lewis. I mean, Wagner was pretty good last year. So last year's
Yeah, it's
linebackers,
last year.
CBs, Jalen Ramsey, DJ Reed, Marlon Humphrey, Siobhan Revel last year versus Reek Woolen, Riley Moss, Noel Williams, Brandon Cease. I think I'd take this year's.
Yeah, Humphrey's old. Yeah, I'll take this year. And then safeties probably about a wash.
Yeah. Last year at safety, we had Jordan Battle, Talanoa Hufanga. This year, Jordan Battle, Ronnie Hickman. And then specialists, I think it's funny, we took the 49ers kicker last year, given all the issues they have at kicker, but that was more a statement
That
on the
is
rest
funny.
of the roster.
Yeah.
So there you have it, back-to-back years. Mark, in a battle between these two teams, I think this year's team beats last year's team.
I agree.
Easily.
Yeah, I think it's close. You think easily. Yeah, okay. Yeah, QB's a big advantage. Huge advantage. Huge.
So,
yeah.
I think we ended up putting together. I think when we started this exercise, we thought this year's team might be quite a bit rougher than last year's, but I think it actually turned out quite a bit better.
Mike McDaniel, head coach. Jim Schwartz, defensive coordinator. He's out of work, looking for a job. He can be our DC. Brian Johnson, offensive coordinator. No, I'm joking. I'm the coordinator. But we'll figure out someone to get Mike McDaniel coffee.
As I say, we don't need an offensive coordinator.
We'll find some Shanahan underling at some point.
Some guy that had coffee with Sean McVay one time.
Yes, exactly.
So, all right. Well, that is going to do it. Mark, before we get out of here, you got any final thoughts?
I don't. I'm getting yelled at by the people in our chat. I put the roster in there. The Bears fans yelling, "Wait, you guys didn't protect Tooney?" The one guy saying, "Damn, that team's getting cooked." Yeah, that's the point. We protected 11 guys from each team. And then this guy saying, "No way, I lost Riley Moss because you guys protected Jahdae Barron." We didn't protect Jahdae Barron. But those are my final thoughts. People yelling at us about it.
So for the Bears, we didn't protect Tooney, but it's because we protected Caleb Williams, Roma Dunze, Luther Burden, Colson Loveland, and Darnell Wright. I don't think you're throwing any of those guys back. For the Broncos, we protected Jaquan McMillan, Pat Surtain, Talanoa Hufanga, Nick Benito, Zach Allen, Jonah Ellis, and left Riley Moss out there. So Jahdae Barron did not get protected either.
Yeah, for sure.
Yell back at him, Mark. Yell back.
I am. I'm typing back. I'm saying.
So you guys let us know what you think. Who would you have protected? Which team do you think is better? You can let us know in the comments. But thank you guys for joining us for episode number 236 of Chalk Talk. If you enjoy what you heard on the show, and we know that you do, smash that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next episode. Drop us a 5-star rating wherever you stream your podcasts. You can follow us on Twitter. I am at Shane Half NFL. He is at Mark Henry Jr. NFL. And we will catch you guys next time.